The old Modelo 720 penalties were struck down by the EU, so there are no consequences for not filing. Right? Wrong. Here's what the Hacienda can still do to you. In January 2022, the European Court of Justice ruled that Spain's Modelo 720 penalty regime was disproportionate and violated EU law. The old system was severe: fixed fines of €5,000 per data item, a minimum penalty of €10,000, and the ability to treat undeclared assets as unjustified capital gains, taxable at up to 150%. Those specific penalties are gone. That part is true. But here's what people get wrong about the ruling. The court struck down the penalties. It did not strike down the obligation. You still must file the Modelo 720 if you're a Spanish tax resident with foreign assets exceeding €50,000 per category. The three categories haven't changed: bank accounts abroad, securities and insurance, real estate. The threshold hasn't changed. The deadline hasn't changed: March 31st. What changed is the punishment for not filing, and the new punishment is still significant enough that ignoring it is a bad bet. Let's look at the actual numbers under the current rules. Under the current framework, late filing carries a penalty of up to €150 per data item, with a minimum of €300. For complete failure to file, the Hacienda applies general tax infraction penalties under Spain's Ley General Tributaria. Those range from €1,000 for minor infractions up to €20,000 for serious ones. The severity depends on how the Hacienda classifies your case. Negligence gets lighter treatment. Intentional concealment gets the maximum. But the fine itself is not the biggest risk. This is the part that actually costs people money. If the Hacienda discovers foreign assets you didn't declare, those assets can still be added to your taxable income for the year. This is called reclassification. At marginal rates of 37 to 45% in Andalusia, that's a significant hit on a six-figure asset base. Let me make this concrete. You have a UK investment portfolio worth €200,000 that you didn't declare. The Hacienda discovers it through the Common Reporting Standard, which is automatic. They add it to your taxable income. At a 43% marginal rate, that's €86,000 in tax on money you thought was just sitting in your brokerage account. The original fines may be gone. The tax liability hasn't changed. We track every tax deadline and penalty change that affects expats on the Costa del Sol. Subscribe at WaypointSur.com for the updates that matter. So what should you actually do if you're behind on filing? If you haven't filed, and you should have, the best move is voluntary disclosure. Filing late, on your own terms, before the Hacienda comes looking. The penalties for voluntary late filing are significantly lower than the penalties for getting caught in an inspection. A fiscal advisor can file your outstanding Modelo 720 declarations and assess your exposure. The cost of the advisor is typically a few €100s. The cost of the Hacienda finding your assets first is orders of magnitude higher. One more thing to understand: the Hacienda is not guessing. The Common Reporting Standard means your UK bank, your US brokerage, your German insurer are sending your account balances to Spain's tax authority automatically, every year. This is not a theoretical risk, it is an operational data pipeline. The question is not whether they'll find your assets. The question is whether you reported them first. Here's your calendar. The Modelo 720 for the 2025 tax year is due by March 31st, 2026. If you've never filed, and you should have, your fiscal advisor can file for prior years simultaneously. The sooner you file voluntarily, the better your position if the Hacienda ever asks questions. Don't wait for the deadline to get advice. The consultation takes an hour. The peace of mind lasts all year. The EU ruling reduced the penalties. It did not remove the obligation. File on time. March 31st is the deadline. Subscribe at WaypointSur.com for the stuff your gestoria forgets to mention. Next up, opening a Spanish bank account and the branch lottery that decides your experience.